Lisa at the end, you know what she says to Danny? Danny, she's more capable than you think. Come on, what's with the pun, Lisa? This is bad upset. Welcome to Inchworm,
the podcast in which we're inching through Worm. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ted.
We read Tangle 6.9, the
Nice.
end of the Tangle arc. The chapter in which she does not write to Miss Militia.
Ooh,
as I predicted.
Someone predicted.
But I didn't predict what was going to happen in this chapter. I didn't see the dad thing coming.
Well,
I mean,
it's such I think, a great choice to have the undersiders of it all get put on pause so we can focus straight in on Taylor. It's really fun.
I feel like it makes sense for a shoe to drop now, and this is one of the least plot devastating shoes that could drop. Like this, it's like, I was like, will the undersiders find out? Oh, for context, Ted told me this chapter might be hard to take for me. I thought either the undersiders would find out about her insinuation plan, or she would try to talk to the protectorate and it wouldn't go well. And it turns out, no, it's the third thing. And either of those two things would have really blown up the plot momentum. And this furthers the plot momentum. And without really, I don't feel like it really even burns any bridges.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, you know, an intense chapter. I didn't actually find it that harrowing.
Good. Yeah, this is the chapter that came to mind in the school scene when you were like, well, how much do I get before I'm this upset again? And I hadn't really reread it until before this recording, but this is the one that came to mind as potentially upsetting.
And I think if you hadn't calibrated my expectations where I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? I might have been more upset about this one. So actually, I think it was nice to hear that.
It's good to know, you know, I'm sure there'll be things that come up that I don't warn you about accidentally, but I'll try to give you a heads up sometimes.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Now, we've been talking around a little bit what happens, so I think we should just...
Should I tell you what happens?
Yeah, we should just get into it.
So Taylor is walking home from the loft, I guess. Basically, the undersiders have decided, we're too tired tonight, let's sleep on it, we'll discuss this tomorrow. So Taylor's walking home because the bus timing isn't good, and she's trying to plot out in her head what she's going to write to Miss Militia. I guess she's going to, send her an email. And she's just having trouble figuring out a good way to put it, and she's realizing it's because she doesn't really want to write this message, and she's feeling conflicted about her plans. She's like, you know what? She has some reflection on how much she misses her mom, how her mom would be helpful right now. She's like, you know what? I just need to sit in front of my computer screen and actually type. That will help me clarify my thoughts. So I just need to get home and do that. Mm-hmm. So she gets home. Her dad is there and he seems kind of worried. And she's like, yeah, I'm just going to go turn in for the night. He's like, actually, I was hoping we could talk. And she's like, no, this really isn't a good time. Why won't the door open? It turns out he's locked her into the kitchen. He called the school to see how she was doing, and it found out that she hasn't been to school in almost a month.
Yeah.
And is, upset and concerned. Turns out he called her grandmother, who was like, you're not being hard enough on her. And so he's like, okay, time for the tough love. He's like, we're not leaving this room until you tell me what's going on. Really big gambit. Doesn't go well for him. She kind of freaks out. She has to struggle to suppress her power, to keep all the bugs in the neighborhood from answering her.
Yeah.
She wreaks a little havoc on the possessions in the kitchen and then is like, no, just let me think. And he's like, yeah, sit down, think. So she sits, she grabs a manila folder and starts writing on it. She writes, I am a supervillain. And then she writes, I like the undersiders, I like these guys. She kind of writes through some of it. And she thinks through a lot of her motivations, finally realizes that her reasons for going through with turning in the undersiders have really thinned out, kind of been whittled away one by one. Now with this Coil thing, she doesn't know that she trusts him, but it really weakens the idea that she's doing it for the greater good. She feels confused about all that. And what she really wants, it's not just that she likes these guys and wants to continue being their friend. It's that she never actually gave herself a chance to really be their friend because she always had this secret that she was holding back.
Yeah.
And she can't live with the idea of betraying them without having gotten to experience being their friends.
Yeah.
So she's written some of this out. She takes it and holds it over the burner of the stove to burn the note. She was originally thinking maybe she would give this to her dad once she'd figured things out, but now that she's decided, I'm not turning them in, I'm not going to go write a message to Miss Militia, she burns the evidence. she apologizes to her dad, and then she goes and gets her cell phone. And he's like, you have a cell phone? And she sends a text, and they talk a little bit about how he feels like he's failed her. It turns out he and her mom had discussed her skipping a grade earlier, and he had argued for her staying in the same grade as her best friend.
Oh.
And she's like, you couldn't have known, but he can't help but imagine that alternate reality and whether things would have turned out differently, better.
Yeah.
So they have that conversation. She basically is like, I'm not going back to school. Like, maybe I could talk them into accommodating me, not failing me, but like, I'm not going to go grovel to those jerks. Like, I'm not going to go back, put myself in the hands of the bullies. Like, there's no way to stop the bullies. It's a force of human nature.
Oof.
I'm going to stop spending so much time and energy thinking about them. I'm reprioritizing. I'm going to live my life and make up for lost time. And Lisa shows up, unlocks the door with the key that she got from the rock outside, and Taylor is leaving with her, and her dad's like, no, please stay. And she's like, no, I mean, this isn't permanent, but I need to take some time away. And he's like, you live here, you're a child. And she says, this doesn't feel like a home. Home is supposed to feel safe and secure. And he's basically like, yeah, okay, I shouldn't have pressed you like this, but come back, I won't press you any further. Lisa, are you really okay with her doing this? And Lisa's like, yeah, if she says she needs this, I trust her. She's more capable than you realize. She can stay with me. It's fine.
Oh.
And so Taylor leaves, and Danny says, you can come home anytime. And they leave.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, I have to say, I was really down on Danny in the first half of the chapter, and I do think he messed this up, but
yeah.
I think the way he ends it is really smart.
Yeah, he makes it clear that it's, from his side at least, she hasn't burned a bridge,
right.
Which is kind of what you were saying at the beginning.
It's the opposite of what you get at the end of Buffy season 2, spoilers for that, where her mom finally finds out she's the Slayer, and it's like, no, stay here and explain this, and Buffy basically has to go save the world. She's like, I don't have time for this. And her mom's like, if you walk out that door, don't even bother coming back. And so Buffy like leaves home for a summer. She's like 16. And she does eventually come back, but you can see how her mom like was trying to like wield the strongest weapon at her disposal. But the problem is like when you make that huge swing, if you miss, it's really disastrous. And that's what happened to Danny in the kitchen. Like there might have been a way, like he could have at least kept Taylor living at home.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah, and it's funny that you bring up another story about a teenager who has these great powers and also some responsibilities and things, and a story beat that's similar. Because I do feel like it's a very YA situation.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, of course, like living with your dad, there's a part of the story is like you have to throw that away and go out into the world.
Right, it's always a safety net, and if we want the main character to have like full agency, you kind of have to strip that away.
Yeah, and it would have been a fun pivot if it had gone the way of like, oh, well, rationally, I'm going to try and persuade my dad and win. I
still want them to end up on the same side at some point.
And I'm not saying that would happen. I'm just saying, this is it's a surprising beat because it's not directly foreshadowed in any way that we're going to have this like explosive situation.
True.
It's just like the shoe's been waiting to drop and it suddenly happens, but it is kind of like expected in retrospect of like, okay, well, of course it was going to get to this breaking point. And
it's nice that there are so many shoes in the air in this story so far. They can be dropped at strategic points as needed. Yeah. And this was such a good one. Like we needed a decisive thing, a break to happen in her life at the end like of this arc that kind of has changed a lot. She needed to make a decision, and it is important that decision feel like it has a cost, I think.
That's a really good point. And it is to your initial point as well. It's really interesting that it's sort of it's a personal cost, but not a like plot momentum cost.
Right. She's not going to jail, she's not, she's not being unmasked. But I do think if she had decided to turn them in, she could have told her dad everything in the kitchen. I think she was planning to.
Ooh,
when she was like, I could just hand this folder that I'm writing on with just the line, I am a supervillain to my dad. Like, how would he react? Yeah. Like, I think she needed to think through, am I turning in the Undersiders? Because if the answer were yes, there's no reason not to tell Danny.
I mean, I think that's true, but I also think that the causation could easily go the other way.
Oh, yeah?
Well, let me think through it a little bit, right? Because she is first like, there's this really great moment after the initial, she gets heated because she finds out she's locked in. And she's like, I just need to think.
Yeah.
And she sits down, and then it's this beautiful moment of Taylor being Taylor where she totally locks in.
It's like the pressure from her dad is what enables her to finally reach the clarity she's been looking for.
Yeah. She thinks like, come on, I've been facing down supervillains, life or death stakes. Are you telling me you're like my dad is that hard? Okay, actually it's 10 times harder, but I have to catalog my options, find the tools at hand. No physical violence, no using my power. What does that leave me? She totally locks in and is like, I am going to figure this out. And that's where she starts the pieces together. But then she goes on, she's saying like, okay, well, I still have to follow through on the plan, right? She hasn't totally abandoned it. But then she looks up and she's imagining telling her dad. I could see his face turning to confusion. After that, disgust, disappointment. A little part of me died inside at the thought. And then she moves forward.
Yeah.
So that's another fascinating moment. And we could maybe come back to Danny's side of it like later. But to me, I think you're right in that she could have told Danny and he would have understood and forgiven her and worked with her like from that point. But she doesn't feel that she can. She's projecting her own feelings of guilt, that disgust and disappointment. Like that's what she's dealing with as she's about to write out in black and white, I am a supervillain.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think she does feel it because she doesn't feel like she can tell him that she's betraying the Undersiders in a way that's convincing because she still can't quite imagine doing it.
Yeah.
And hasn't thought through the reasons why, but like she knows on a gut level that she's not going to.
But it's also admitting what she has done to date.
Yeah.
It's not just about what she's about to do or the decisions he's about to come to.
It's about like what she talks about. She has this great analogy with like this professor who worked with her mom who had this awful comb over, and her mom's like, maybe he just looked in the mirror one day and it's like he's losing some hair, but he can comb his hair differently and it looks better, and so he just keeps doing that and it starts looking ridiculous, but he's so used to it and no one tells him. And it's sort of the like, what is it, frog in a pot of boiling water? What kind of animal is it?
Yeah.
Where she now has done too many bad things to feel like she could confess them and get away with it in the eyes of anyone who isn't a villain.
Right.
So part of it is that she really has come around on, maybe this isn't for the greater good and I want to be friends with these people. Part of it is just like she's dug herself too deep and she no longer has a way out.
Yeah. And that comes through in...
That's more of a tragedy then. Yeah.
That comes through in the initial bit where she's thinking to Miss Militia, where she's like... You know, you might think I'm a villain, but... And then she's like, no. Like
I've done all these things.
Yeah. And she's like, she initially starts to kind of BS it. Like, it was always about the greater good, and I have this great plan. And then she feels this, because she's dealing with it internally, like, what the strategy is for Miss Militia is, like, we have no idea how Miss Militia would receive any of this. But she's thinking, but that's just not true. That's not authentic. And then she goes like, okay, well, I was feeling lonely and these guys took me in, but I was... also thinking about the greater good at the same time.
Yeah.
And like, that's when she starts to like open up and really admit like, and she keeps thinking like, okay, but Miss Militia knows like, well, I terrorized those people at the bank, all that stuff I did to Loon, like, can I really, like, do I even really believe this anymore?
It's so funny because I was reading that. I was like, no, Taylor, it's obvious how you write this letter. You say, Miss Militia, you know me as Skitter. However many weeks ago, I received an offer to join the Undersiders, and I did it so that I could find out information about them and take them down. I discussed this with Armsmaster at the time. He was skeptical of my plan, but I wanted to see it through. I have now found out the information that I need. I would like to give you that information. Yeah. That's all you need to say. Yeah. Like, the fact that she can't put that together says more about her motivations than about the actual situation. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Of course. It's because she isn't committed to her strategy anymore, and she is struggling with how to behave authentically. Right. To Miss Militia, to the Undersiders, to Danny. Yeah. Right. I'm just like, I want to engage in a little bit of self-mockery that I read her, like, trying to write these drafts. And I was like, no, I know how I would write it. Yeah, exactly. It's easier to see when you're from the outside also, but that's, of course I wanted to do that. Yeah. But yeah, to go back to what you were saying, she's struggling to find authenticity, which is really interesting because I have viewed her so much, or she at least has identified about herself, this really, really like principle driven, like aspect of herself where like she won't be able to live with herself if she doesn't live up to those principles that she entered this whole Cape arena with. And of course, we've talked about how like, no, clearly she was lonely. Clearly she was looking for a purpose. She was looking for acceptance. Like those are huge parts of her motivation that she's not acknowledging. And it almost like there was a point in this chapter that I think was only brief. I did move beyond it where I was like, no, wait, Taylor is deciding that she wants to do this because she wants the chance to form real authentic friendships with these people. Like Taylor is saying this. But then it moved on to like her reasons for sticking to her plan, like her kind of high-minded ethical stuff, like have really started to disappear. And especially now that she has this option of like, oh, maybe Coil will do good things, and she's not sure it would go so well for her if she did follow through with her original plan. Like all of these reasons, she no longer has the motivation to follow through her original plan. And so it's easier for her to acknowledge this personal side of herself.
No, that's so interesting that it almost feels like it rings a little false. Like that she's revealing something new here. But I think you're absolutely right. It's that she's... Like, when she says, I'm a supervillain, she's not, like, saying it with an evil cackle. She's, like, describing the situation.
Yeah.
She's realizing that she is a supervillain right now. And I do feel like that moral core of her being isn't front and center in this chapter. When it comes up, she's just saying, like, I'm so confused. I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah.
And you're right that it's rational to then focus on the other piece of it. It's the sort of, like, I don't know how to make sense of the fact that I'm a supervillain, which I can admit now, and that I don't know how to bring about the greater good, which I probably still want to do. She's not thinking I don't care about the greater good. She's just confused.
Yeah.
And then she has this other stuff that she's seeing clearly for the first time. And she says something sort of like, I'm not going to turn in the Undersiders, at least not right now. Like she sort of says she says something like, well, I don't have to decide never to do it, but right now I'm going to be authentically with them and not planning to betray them. I don't remember exactly what she said, but yeah.
You know what this reminds me of? There was a point earlier where she had been pushing herself so incredibly hard to go to school every day. And then she meets the Undersiders, gets accepted by them, learns none of them are going to school, gets sort of these viable options for like, GED, online classes, all this stuff. And then she doesn't go to school again, basically. I mean, she might go back once or twice. The meeting with Coil did that for her here. She was pushing herself against all of her sort of instinctive human nature inclinations to side with these people who'd accepted her, who had her back, who she liked. She's like, no, I'm still going to turn them in because it's for the greater good, because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't do this thing for the greater good. And then Coil gives her this option where like, wait, maybe there are ways to do good things for the city without betraying my friends to the Protectorate.
You're so right.
And all of a sudden she is able to see, okay, I don't want to turn them in. Like, absolutely not. Like, if there is this other viable path towards graduation, towards good things for the city.
Why not both? Why not do good and be best friends with the Undersiders?
Right.
Yeah.
She's God. This is now a viable option for the city being revitalized and the ferry coming back and these things that she and her family have been dreaming of.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very powerful temptation, what Coil has offered her. And like she says, we don't know if it's false or not.
She's not even saying she's persuaded by Coil. In fact, I was very happy to see that she has a healthy degree of skepticism of Coil. So I feel like I wasn't projecting too much onto her. I think she jokes like, I mean, am I really going to trust the snake guy?
Yeah, seriously.
That's very funny. Yeah, it's not necessarily that Coil was very persuasive, though it seems like he was somewhat persuasive, but the idea of what Coil was saying.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That, I think, is a really good point.
Right, because she wasn't deciding like, I'll take online classes. I'll take the GED test. Like, she was just like, there are other paths.
Yeah.
Now there are other paths towards making the city better. Like, cleaning up the city is what she came to do. Of course, that's also what Purity said she wants to do. So it's, a tricky proposition.
No. Of course. Yeah. And I mean, I think there's a bit... I do feel like with her idea of the insinuation, betrayal, greater good thing, and the idea of her like having friends, being with the Undersiders thing, I do feel like there's a part of her that like wants to be a hero herself, right? Like I feel like what we saw in very early Taylor, like pre-insinuation, like why she goes out to fight Loon, like she does want to like stop bad guys, but I feel like it's...
But she's been doing so much of that with the Undersiders.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is a bit of there's just a little bit of Arms Master in her that like, I want to do a cool thing and like be me and like be a hero that people know that I did the thing, right? Like it's not just about the outcomes.
Yeah.
Where like the Coil style, like I'm going to sit back and effect change. I do feel like there's a part of Taylor that is like, I want to be recognized.
Yeah.
Which isn't material at all to what she's thinking about in this chapter. But I do feel like there's a little piece of that she isn't examining. Or maybe that's just fading over time, or, you know, other motivations are coming in. But I feel like that piece of her and why she's doing this is lurking somewhere within.
Two things. So the first thing that just came up for me while you were talking was just thinking about, like, I think Lisa's cops and robbers thing is doing some work here. Like, Taylor's never going to bring that on as her own personal philosophy.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely true that what she's done with the Undersiders has had relatively little cost in, like, the lives of innocents, you know.
I mean, she terrorized those people, but...
Relatively little. But, like, those people were terrorized. But, like, you know, it wasn't like scores of people died or people lost their home, you know. The costs have been relatively small, and she's gotten to do actually a lot of taking down villains.
Yeah.
So I think without that piece, it would be a lot harder for her to choose to stay with the Undersiders.
Yeah.
The other thing that came up, Taylor talks about, like, how did I end up here? Okay, this series of really small steps, and all of the steps have been in accordance with who she is.
Yeah.
But because of sort of, not exactly crazy random happenstance, but like... because of circumstances, it has led her really far astray from where she expected to be. It's almost like the course of events has taken her destiny somewhere that she didn't intend. If only we knew someone who had the power to make that happen. Because, like, it doesn't seem like her will has been twisted.
No,
it's just more like, given who she is, the choices that she would make in all of the different circumstances, and the choices she was offered have resulted in her being here.
Right.
And that is the kind of thing that I could imagine someone with a power to affect destinies, affect outcomes could
I love that. I love that you're on Coil Watch. Now, it's been one chapter since we've learned his power, but you're like, and thinking all the way back in the story. I mean... yeah, oh my gosh. It's a really beautiful thing that you can do in a story this long, to see like just the character arc of Taylor shifting a little bit in every chapter, in every arc, to get her to this point where you really feel that frog in a pot of boiling water of, like, you know, the incremental, like, okay, well, like, was that really that bad? No, I'm still who I am. Oh, was that really that bad? No, I'm still who I am. And, like, one of the things that occurred to me in this chapter is, like, this is her big chapter for Taylor the supervillain, because she writes it out in black and white. But it's also a really big chapter for Taylor the teenager, because she runs away from home.
Yeah.
And what it brings up for me is, like, she is realizing that she has become Skitter in a way, like, sort of like, okay, I'm Skitter, and I didn't necessarily mean to be that. And, you know, she's conflicted about being that. She's admitting that that's who she is now. She's still conflicted about it. But she absolutely does not want to be Taylor, the girl from the beginning anymore, right?
That moment where she's like, well, I'm glad I've changed because I really didn't like who I was before. And her dad's like, I did.
Yeah. And something else he says, it's just unexpected. I wouldn't have thought. And Taylor says, it worked out that way, which is just what you were saying about, like, you know, you wouldn't have gotten to this place by planning it, but it's just a series of steps.
Yeah. I feel like a recurring motif we're getting in this story is people underestimating Taylor.
Ooh,
and one of the people who's doing it is Danny. Like, he thinks, like, okay, I've been showing her this sort of respect. I've been her ally. It's not working. He gets, I guess, convinced by this, like, kind of authoritarian grandmother figure who thinks that he needs to be like harder on her.
Yeah.
And he's like scared enough to call her and ask for her advice. He's really shaken. He's like, she's lying to me. I don't know what to do. And so he thinks, it's okay. I can still crack down. And like, we're parents and we're really dealing right now with when you have a 2-year-old and it's bedtime and they don't want to put on their pajamas, you can still force them to do it. It can be a huge mess if you force them to do it, but like, you can decide to do it. But maybe you decide usually you don't want to, but it's always in the back of your mind that like, okay, but I could still just grab her arms and put those pajamas on her.
Right.
And Danny is in that position where he's like, okay, I have been trying not to just exert my will on Taylor, but she's only 15. I can still do it.
Yeah.
If it really comes down to it, if I really need to, and right now he's deciding he needs to, like I can just lock her in a room and get her to talk to me.
Yeah.
But he can't.
Yeah.
It turns out that she is actually too powerful for that.
Yeah.
Not in terms of her supervillain powers, because she doesn't use the bugs. She does try to use the bugs to unlock the door, which is very funny. It fails.
It's funny, but it's so sad because, you know, they're not strong enough to manipulate the internal door workings. And then she thinks, go away, I told them. And they did. The bugs respect her boundaries. Well, respect. I mean, she's controlling them. But yeah. I found that very sad.
Yeah, it was a really sad thing, the go away.
Yeah, but you were saying.
Yeah, Danny thinks like he can do this, but he doesn't know how strong her network is outside the home. He doesn't know she has a cell phone. And so she's able to just take it, text Lisa, who's able to find the key because Lisa has that kind of power. And Lisa can just get her out of this.
Yeah.
And it is a thing where, like, I mean, like I said, I don't think this bridge is burned, but he did major damage to their relationship by thinking she was still within his grasp to control, but being wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely true. To me, in reading this, I mean, it's so interesting. I guess first the thing about his decision here, because we have been, I think, rah-rah Team Danny, doing a great job to date.
Yeah.
This is a total failure.
Yeah, real messed up.
It's a sympathetic one.
Yeah.
That, he learned this thing about the school, right? That was very upsetting to him. I'm so interested in this chain of failures, though, especially in the context of the comb-over that we were talking about earlier. Because the comb-over story is a parable about, like, you know, Taylor and her mom are talking about it, and her mom explains it, and it's just very, very sympathetic. Taylor's like a little bit of her judgy self, right? I guess she's had that trait for a while. Like, why does he have why does he look so bad? If he
why doesn't anyone tell him?
Yeah. But then it's a really nice portrait of her mom, the sort of like
so empathetic,
painting an empathetic portrait of this guy, and then demonstrating herself the power and danger of relationships. That sort of like, well, you know, maybe there aren't people who care enough to tell him, or maybe the people who do care enough also care enough not to hurt him, and no one's, you know, looking out for him in that way. And because Taylor urges her to action, her
Taylor's
mom
like,
goes,
you could.
and apparently it works, and it's a very nice moment. He learns, oh, I could, you know, style myself differently, and their relationship is fine. And it was a really nice thing that Taylor's mom did, right? And sort of in the context of this existing relationship and trust, you know, you can tell someone about their comb over. Yeah. And Taylor's a little bit comparing to herself, like, well, have I gone off the deep end here? She's sort of thinking to herself a little bit like, couldn't somebody be like there to tell me, like, when I've gone too far? Which is exactly what we were saying about how she needed a handler to, like, if she was going to pull this thing off, right? But using the comb over analogy, first of all, this grandmother character, authoritarian grandmother, this is the only time she's come up. Yeah. She hears about this. She yells at Danny and says, you have to be a stricter dad. That's calling Danny out on his comb over. But it's bad advice. And I think it's because it doesn't sound like Danny and Grams have like a good relationship, or that she's kind of like, you know, from a point where you can really give that advice constructively. And then Danny calls Taylor out on her comb over. Yeah. Right? He's like, hey, you haven't been going to school. That's unacceptable. You're not talking to me about it. That's unacceptable, right? But it's also a huge failure. And I think their relationship is strong enough to have survived it. But I think that locking her in a house or locking her in a room in a house re-traumatizes her, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
it's what happened to her at school in the locker. I mean, not exactly.
Exactly.
But yeah.
And there's this whole thing where, like, you know, that's when she starts really getting upset. She's moving around the space. She's desperate to get out. It's all she can think about.
Yeah.
Her power starts acting up, which we've seen before in, like, high intensity situations. She starts getting angry, which doesn't help, you know, kind of control, you know, that doesn't help her control her power. It almost makes it worse. And it gets to the point where, like, she's thinking in this moment right after realizing she's locked in, Emma, the school arms master, Danny, these are people who are supposed to, I'm supposed to be able to rely on them, but they're turning on me, cornering me, making me feel the worst, right? That is not Taylor locked in thinking this through. That is Taylor, like, being traumatized again by the situation that she's in.
Yeah.
And to me, that is, like, I almost feel like if Danny had taken her on a car ride, like, and just started talking about this stuff, there's a chance that she might have opened up. You know, and he had the bad luck to do it in this moment when she's writing this letter and, you know, there's
but
some...
yeah, he was also urgent enough about it and, like, impatient enough to, like, not be able to recognize, like, oh, she's in a bad moment right now. I need to wait.
Yeah, and of course, she's been away from home for days, right? Like, it's...
Yeah. Because she had the bruising and didn't want him to see it, so she hasn't been there.
Right.
It's basically the equivalent of, like, if Taylor had been like, you could say something to her mom, you could say something about the comb over, and her mom went in with a razor and shaved the guy's head. Like, that's basically what Danny's trying to do with Taylor.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also the other thing. Taylor says, you know, like, she's sort of like, I don't feel safe at home, this bullying, power abuse shit. Like, again, I feel like it's an exercise of Danny's power. I feel like saying it's power abuse is, like, taking it a bridge too far. I feel like it's traumatizing, but in the context of, like, he's staging an intervention, right? Like, that's what he's trying to do. And, like, it's not, you know... And again, we're not saying the bridge is burned, but I think there's a way that you could have backed out of the situation that's not, like, lumping him in with Emma.
Right, but it does feel, like you were saying, it's re-traumatizing her in that way. Yeah.
And it's, speaking of trauma, I feel like pulling out the cell phone at the end is got to be very triggering for Danny.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he deserved it.
And then the abandonment, right?
Yeah.
We know from the interlude, he has this thing, and it's so sad. He has this thing about, like, I wish I could just pick up the phone and talk to Annette.
Oh, yeah.
And here again, he's like, I just want you to talk to me.
Yeah.
And she turns him down. And I totally get...
Oh, he must feel so guilty.
I totally get where Taylor's coming from. Right.
Yeah.
I would love to have seen what would have happened if he had not locked her in and she had been able to go to him and say, I need help, what should I do?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I would have loved, because I really believe in their bond, and I believe in him that he, you know, could have helped her and not shown any of his, you know, darker feelings or whatever.
I don't know if he could have helped her. Like, you were saying that, you know, you need someone to be able to call you on your comb over. She needs a handler. Like, I don't think a parent is ever going to be a good handler in that kind of situation. Like, I don't know that he's going to be able to give her advice that's not just absolutely prioritizing her safety, which is not her first priority necessarily.
Yeah, and that's actually, that's another good point about the comb over thing, is that the story takes place between peers and in a sort of professional...
I mean, he's her boss, but it's...
collegial setting.
Certainly colleagues,
Which is so different from a family relationship.
I mean, that's why teens often don't tell their parents things, because they know that the parent is going to prioritize their safety in a way that the teen might have different priorities.
Yeah.
And the parent has the ability sometimes to, you know, overrule the teen's decisions, and so the teen's not going to tell the parent things.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking about is just he brings up the lying, which I think we saw a lot of the first lies she's telling Danny, and it's just an interesting culmination of that thread where it's like, like, white lies are okay. Obviously, you're going to lie to your parents sometimes, but how corrosive it is and how much of a slippery slope it is. And, like, I guess that's just a microcosm of the whole arc that she's been on.
Yes, the slippery slope. Yeah, I was thinking about what you said about abuse of power. I think that it can feel like that without it necessarily being that, if that makes sense. Like, I'm sure that every time we force Violet to lie down and get her diaper changed, she feels it in her soul as a violation. And so even if this isn't an abuse of power, it's gonna hit Taylor like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe it's not... Power abuse is definitely closer to the reality of it. Bullying feels like...
I mean, it's not bullying. It's not like But it's not an extended campaign.
But while we're talking about it, this sort of... Taylor later says bullying's a force of human nature.
That was really
interesting. As her decision to move on. Yeah. And she's sort of saying, like, this is her cynical but probably very effective coping mechanism of, like, well, bullying isn't a problem to be solved or a thing that I can prevent.
Yeah.
But given that bullying exists, how should I act in the world? And it's by not prioritizing Emma.
Yeah. It's a very, like, self-protective attitude. Like, bullying is a force of human nature. Like, she's not blaming herself. She's not, like, trying to turn into someone who won't be bullied.
Yeah.
She's just like, oh no, this is just going to happen. Okay, I'm going to...
And in the context of this scene, right, I guess she's a little harsh to Danny on the way out, but I feel like the fact that she goes to him and hugs him and is like...
Yeah. And
she tries to de-escalate really responsibly, right? But what she is saying is, oh, of course... my dad is going to abuse his power and bully me, but I don't have to, like, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to leave, right? Like, it's kind of the same,
I guess.
It's the same worldview, right? It's
I didn't quite get the sense that she thought this was inevitable from Danny in the same way, like, that him doing this to her was a force of human nature. I don't know. I guess you can extrapolate that from the things she says, but I didn't get that feel.
Yeah. But it's almost like that she's able to go to him and forgive him and be like, yeah, of course I still love you, you're still my dad, but like, yeah, it's force of human nature, of course you're going to do this to me and I'm going to leave. I'm just thinking of this as we're talking about it now, but I wonder if that's part of her Emma Armsmaster Danny listing. How much is that going to stick for her outside of this moment? Or did she already kind of shake it off by the end of the chapter?
I didn't feel like he was really bullying her, so I feel like the bullying thing as a force of human nature didn't really apply to him. Yeah. But I'm not sure.
She seems to think that it's bullying, whether or not it counts. Yeah. But what were you going to say?
I was really intrigued by her, like, it's a force of human nature. There's just no point in even trying to figure out why Emma's doing this. I was like, is the narrative not going to tell us why Emma's doing this? I still think it will, but I had this moment of like, what if this is just like we never see Emma again? Like, what if this is it? I don't think that's the case. I think there's too much richness to be mined there. Yeah. Like, it would just be such a waste to not bring her back, but...
I love the idea of maybe, like, Wild Bo's writing this, and he's, like, doing all this cool superhero action, but, like, maybe all the comments are like, what about Emma? And he's in this chapter.
He's like, screw you guys, we're never finding out.
Yeah, we're going to do, 3 whole arcs, no Emma. 10 whole arcs, no Emma.
It's definitely a thing that happens sometimes when you'll be writing a story and you're like, include this one scene. And then people are like, oh my god, that scene. That one character. And you're like, I never mentioned that character again. Oh, crap. Now I need to bring them back in a later chapter because, like, now everyone's fixated on that character. I don't think that's the case with Emma. I think there is a plan to bring her back. I have faith. Yeah. I'm an Emma believer.
But it is just...
What I should have said is, Emma believer.
Wow. Beautiful. But the supervillain teenager thing, we've seen in every arc both parts of her life. And this is a real breaking point. It'll be really interesting to see whether that's a new normal or if it quickly gets subverted by other circumstances.
I mean, I'm so excited to see her be a full member of the Undersiders now. Because, like she said, she's been holding back. And every time she's been with them, they've been functioning as a team, we've been like, oh, but we know she still at least thinks she's planning to betray them. And now we're finally free from that. And there's sort of still a lingering like, but what's your long-term plan here? But we get to enjoy her functioning as part of this team, her having these friends and having it be real.
Yeah. It's
still troubling, but real.
Yeah. And oh man, when she's thinking about that, like, she talks about how she likes Lisa and wants to be her friend. And then she thinks about Brian and she's like, but also as a friend because, like, nothing else could possibly happen there,
Well, she says she doesn't expect anything else to happen.
Yeah,
but she still wants that. Yeah. And she even wants to get to know Alec and Bitch.
That's true. Yeah. It's really nice.
I can't wait for her to research dog communication. I'm going to be so bummed if that doesn't happen.
I know. Yeah, I'm also just very excited to hear what the Undersiders all think about Coil and like get the follow-up to that, right? It's just like, it's such a great... the way Wildbow keeps all the plates spinning. Like you were predicting, now the Undersiders are going to debrief and you really want to see that.
Yes!
And suddenly you go, but there's this other story and Taylor and Danny and oh my god, Taylor and her insinuation and what's going to happen. And then you're kind of like, but also just like, what are they going to say to Coil? Right? Like that's still hanging there. It's so fun.
I remember you telling me that a lot of the fan fiction takes place like 20% of the way into the story and like that's the status quo that's established there. And I think we're almost at that, maybe not 20%, but we're almost at that status quo of like, she joins the Undersiders for real and they presumably act as like Coil's minions and are holding this territory.
That's fascinating.
Like,
that's fascinating.
I think that's going to be a status quo for a while and a time that seems great for people to set their fix.
Right. That'll be interesting. That's a good meta prediction. I like it. Yeah. So, Taylor's mom.
Oh,
we learn she's an English professor. I'm like on high alert for mom stuff. I just feel like it's a big... It has a lot of narrative weight to be like, we're going to bring in the dead mom here.
Yeah.
And so we talked about the whole comb over thing. We talked a little bit about how Taylor's mom is so helpful in just talking to Taylor and thinking through that stuff. She's, interestingly, have you read this book, Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, that gets name dropped?
No, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I looked at its Wikipedia entry. I haven't read it. I feel like there's got to be someone on Tumblr who's like written about the themes of the works and kind of like what it means that Annette is teaching this course in the context of this chapter. It seemed to be, I don't know, there's a lot of like biblical allusions in the book, but the other little details I loved, we learned that Annette's pet name for Taylor was Little Owl.
Yeah.
So sweet. And the thing that was just like most heartbreaking to me is that when she's thinking about her mom, she ends with basically saying like, I just wish that I could talk to her because I'm so confused and she was so good at helping me put things together. And it's like in her internal family system, her mom is the one who can like provide synthesis and like get to the heart of this thing. And Taylor does such a good job of like locking in and figuring out what she's going to do, locally. But I feel like it's just so sad that she doesn't have this parental figure that she is fantasizing about, like if I could just have a 30-minute conversation with her, I could figure this all out. I could make sense of how confusing and complicated the world is. And of course, she can't. And, to some extent, you can't ever, but yeah.
And the saddest thing about that is that you could imagine her in an alternate reality in which she has neither parent saying, if only I could talk to them.
Yeah.
And then she goes home and Danny's like, talk to me. And she's like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Either because Danny isn't the parent who she wants, or because talking to a parent only really works in fantasy because she doesn't actually want the reality of her parent knowing what she's done and potentially taking choices out of her hands.
And it's I can talk to my mom, but then she thinks just exactly the same things that she was thinking about saying to Danny.
Yeah.
Right. It's not necessarily a knock on him or the reality and the fantasy
are
very at odds.
You're right that she does such a great job when she does lock in. I love how she's like, okay, how about this theory? Does that feel right? No. How about this one? Warmer. Like, she's really feeling out, like, going back to what you said about authenticity, she's like testing her own emotions, like really trying to get the heart of what she is thinking and feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wonder what if her conversations with her mom felt like that.
Right.
I also hadn't really been thinking, like, obviously the loss of her mom, like, really affected her and Danny, but I haven't been thinking about, like, if her mom was alive, like, how would that be affecting the story now?
Ooh, yeah.
Like, to what extent would she be a different person? Would she be handling this differently? Like, that's just such an interesting element to think about.
Yeah, I mean, it changes the bullying, it changes Emma's ability to get under her skin.
Yeah.
All that stuff is different.
People get bullied with two parents. We don't know that.
No, I mean, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
But maybe how she handled it would be different.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the note of her just, like, locking in and, like, reflecting, there's the bit when she's walking home, she, like, covers up. She's feeling cold, but she covers her, like, exposed stomach. Again, she's, like, still wearing the butterfly like top that she doesn't, feels like it's not her, right? So she's like really trying to get in touch with who she is at her core. even though, she can't exactly figure it all out right away. But we should probably wrap up soon, but there are a couple of little details I wanted to pull out. It's all kind of tied together, but we talked about how she is worried about how Danny will see her, but she does think at one point, like, if I could just find the right words, I could convince him that, like, I'm a good person, basically, is what the subtext is. And so that's where, like, I think she really is feeling conflicted about that. The thing she writes out, she thinks, if I could just write it out and see it in black and white, I feel like there's the obvious connection to she wants there to be a black and white answer of like good and bad.
That's such a good point.
And what she ends up doing is writing out I am a supervillain, which is descriptive, but once you've like applied that label to yourself, it immediately makes you think, but that means I'm bad, and like, but I'm not bad, I'm good, I'm bad. Like it creates that conflict. And so I feel like writing it out is progress, but it also is reductive in a way that probably prevents her, like, she can't hold I am a supervillain and my dad will love me together in her head at once, right? In a way that totally makes sense. But I feel like that's the tragedy of this all happening at once, right? Is that she doesn't have a chance to be like, okay, I am a supervillain, but that doesn't mean I want to be villainous, right? Like,
it's reductive, but it's also freeing. Remember when we were talking about Amy, how like if she just became a villain, she suddenly wouldn't have to worry about trying to save everyone in the world all the time and feeling guilty or anything else.
100%.
That's a more extreme example, but the same is true for Taylor. Once she says, I am a supervillain, she doesn't have to worry about betraying her friends and have this internal conflict. Like, she is suddenly free.
That's so true. And that's, when she says, making up for lost time, living my life, right? Like, it's so, she can finally just, full speed ahead. Yeah. She does think, like, I just need to take a breather. And I'm like, you don't realize you're a protagonist, do you? Right? It's very funny. Oh, yeah. The other thing is that we were saying, like, Taylor's like, oh, now she suddenly cares about friends and not the greater good. But I feel like it is so great that she recognizes authentically that the Undersiders are providing something so real and important to her with their friendships, and that they are genuine friends. And we have seen from them, despite whatever, villainous foibles they have, they really care about Taylor, and they are like there for her and are invested in that. Like, there are real relationships there for sure, the other way. And so, there's a way that you could look at this and be like, oh yeah, well, she's sort of getting a contact high off of like having these cool peers out, like doing cool things, and like it's kind of shallow, but like the fact that she's realizing how deep those connections run is like, it's great. It's true. And I totally understand, I understand that at a deeper level beyond just like, I like hanging out with them, right? That's not, a deep enough truth as to like what she's really doing. It's like, she has potentially deep friendships for the first time in years. Oh yeah, last thing. Lisa at the end, she says to Danny, she's more capable than you think. Come on, what's with the pun, Lisa? This is bad OPSEC. You don't know how Danny's brain works. More capable? Couldn't you have used a different synonym?
That's very funny. Okay. I have predictions about Danny, and then I have a couple of things that aren't relevant to this chapter that I thought of recently and that I also want to make sure to share.
Yeah.
I think there will be a point, not super soon, but in a little while, where Taylor will really find herself in a bind, and she goes home for the first time and she sits down. She's like, okay, I need to tell you everything, and I need you to help me figure out where to go. I think this will happen after she is established enough outside the house that it doesn't feel threatening to put herself under Danny's thumb, like logistically. Like, she doesn't think he's going to try to control her.
Right.
But it will be really difficult because of the, like, how is he going to see me thing.
Yeah.
But she'll really need a perspective from someone that she trusts not to be villainous.
Yeah.
My less relevant thoughts. I was thinking while editing the previous episode about, the boss isn't necessarily very hands-on about like who they recruited, who knows. Apparently it's really important to Coil that Bitch be on the team. And I forgot to reflect on that in the previous episode.
Sure.
I don't know if it was just Bitch, or if it's like, no, he chose all these people and he really wants them to stay on the team. But I'm very curious about what he sees for Bitch's future. Like, I don't think it's just because he's like, no one else will look out for the dogs as well. Like, I wonder if there is
That's fascinating. Yeah.
Something specific
Right. In the
there.
context of like when she and Brian were fighting and like Tattletale was like, no, we need to all stay together. Like,
Well, in the context of Lisa saying, like, I haven't told the group about Bitch's, like, communication difficulties because if Bitch found out, she would leave and the boss doesn't want her to leave.
Right. Yeah.
So there's something going on there. Just wanted to flag that. I also think that I said that Regent was probably the son of one of the Triumvirate. I don't think so. I was listening to I'm behind in listening to the podcast. I like to listen because then I get more thoughts. I was listening to the interlude before this arc where they fought Myrthin, I guess the person in charge of the Protectorate of Chicago, and I was like, that's Regent's dad. It's like, if you're going to be prince-coded, obviously Merlin, like, is your dad. Like, Merlin basically raised Arthur, right? Like, that's totally what's going on there. But he's not actually calling himself, like, prince or anything royal. He's calling himself regent. He's a stand-in for a royal. His insecurity is expressed in his regent
That's
name.
beautiful.
Yeah, so just wanted to put that stake in the ground. That's his dad.
Excellent. Very good specific prediction.
Thank you.
Well, it's fun. I mean, we're getting an interlude, which is always fun. We're also getting a bunch of cape names. So do you want to do cape names first? Do you want to talk about your interlude thoughts, what you want to see from an interlude at this point?
Yes, let's talk about that first. So, unfortunately, this was a chapter that ended at the very bottom of the page. So, I did see that the next the interlude starts with the name Paige.
Okay.
I might be wrong, but I don't think we know who that is.
That's correct.
Okay. I think... No, I was going to say that maybe we go back to the wards and one of them's named Paige, or we go to the Protectorate and one of them's named Paige. I think it's going to be the Travelers.
Oh,
yeah.
We don't have any of their names
We've
yet.
seen them so much.
Yeah.
I think maybe Paige is Sundancer.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, because she's the one we've gotten the most screen time with. And
now we know a little bit about the Travelers.
Right, we know they're going to be significant. I think this is a great time to get an
Trickster's
interior
probably
view.
mad at Sundancer because Taylor was like, hey, she's been talking about you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I predict.
I love that. All right, well, I'm going to tell you about some cape names.
Okay.
Canary.
Ooh, interesting. My first thought is like there's like a canary in a coal mine thing. I guess sensing danger would be more of Tattletale's thing. Like, I feel like that's maybe already covered. There's sort of like a singing thing. Is this like someone who has like, I guess we already met one of the Protectorate who has like, which one of them has sound
Triumph
powers?
is the one who roars like a lion.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what like singing powers would do.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but maybe, yeah, we'll say that.
Dragon.
Oh, come on. We already have a dragon, but in Chinese. Is this just a comparison to Loong? Like, there's this other dragon cape, but, like, not as effective or something.
Who knows?
They're like, Taylor, go take out their eyes, too.
Who knows?
Okay, so I guess it's probably not someone who transforms into a dragon because that's what Loong does. So maybe it is just, like, the person who's known for, like, the best pyrokinesis or something.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Actually, I think that Dragon is a serial killer who can detect whether or not someone's a virgin and kidnaps virgins.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. No further questions. Lustrum.
Lustrum can turn anything into gold.
Ah, incredible.
Actually, probably friends with Dragon, because dragons love gold.
Incredible. Wow.
It's actually kind of a crappy power when you think about it, but...
Yeah. Now we're getting, do you want one of the best names or one of the worst names first? Because we're being introduced to both in the same chapter.
I want the best name first, because I'm more excited about the worst name.
Okay. Let me show you this name.
Okay.
How do you think you might say this?
Glastigüen.
That's not, yeah, that's basically right. But Glastigüenye is how I would say. Glastigüenye.
Glastigüenye.
It's a beautiful name. It looks insane when you see it on the page, but yeah, might not surprise you. It's Celtic.
That makes sense.
Or Gaelic. I'm not sure what the right word to use is there, but do you want some vocab?
Sure.
I think Glastig is a Scottish ghost.
Ooh, okay.
And Wenye is green.
Green ghost. Green ghost.
I'm probably also not getting the pronunciation 100% correct.
Someone will tell us.
Yeah.
The green ghost. I can only think of powers like we've already had. Wildbow was so good at coming up with powers, and I'm failing at this. Someone who can sink into the ground, like they're going into a fairy hill.
Ooh.
They're a green ghost because they just like go down into the grass.
I love that. That's great. But I'm thinking of the meme of Homer Simpson disappearing into the hedge. Okay,
The
brace
worst
yourself.
one?
Marquis.
Like Marquise,
Yes.
but Marquis.
Yes. I have to tell you the canonical pronunciation is Marquis.
Marquis.
I think it's okay if we say it a different way, depending on how you feel about it. Marquis, Marquise,
because
Marquis.
Marquis is like, that's how you would say it in French, but is it Marquise in like English, like in England?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't like a marquee. I think of like the text,
right. That's different.
GeoCities
That's different.
or whatever, right? But
Marquis. Okay. All I can think of is the Marquis de Sade, so I'm going to say it's someone who can cause pain in other people.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Do you want to hear a little more context about Paige at the beginning of the next chapter? Oh, just like the
first sentence? Yes, I do.
Paige's jaw hurt, being muzzled like an...
Is it one of the dogs?
Maybe it's...
We can't have another dog interlude. There's no way. I mean, no, it would be great. I would love to see... This is like one of the dogs that bitch has rescued.
So can you finish the sentence, though? Being muzzled like an... Yeah,
I'm having trouble coming up with something that starts with a vowel. Like an untrained dog.
There you go.
Is that what it says?
No, that is not what it says, but you... I love this theory. I think it's great.
Maybe...
we've had a chapter from a good dog, so Paige is a bad dog.
How dare you? There are no bad dogs. Bitch is gonna come for you.
Oh, no.
All right, well, I guess I'll find out.
Next time.
On Inchworm.
Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildbow. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.